crushed Warsaw, and of course they divided it with the Nazi-Soviet pact with Stalin. Two scumbags that later turned on each other, thank God. So there's another example of Gleiwitz. Now we move forward to a U.S. government/British operation, and that is 1953, the overthrow of the democratically elected Mohammad Mossadegh. Mohammad Mossadegh was a poet. He was a liberal by every yardstick. He was anti-Soviet. He helped drive them out of the north. And he told BP that had been dominating his country, he said, you can keep 80% of the money, but my people are starving. We were once a very advanced culture. We've been dominated by you. We're going to build schools. We're going to become first world. We're going to keep 20% of that money, kind of like Hugo Chavez is doing right now. And they said, the hell you are. And so they hired Kermit Roosevelt. And Kermit Roosevelt was the grandson of Teddy Roosevelt. And as CIA section chief, they sent him in with Norman Schwarzkopf's father. Same people, runs in families, as a speaker said earlier today at the press conference. And they went in, and you can go to CIA.gov. You can go to the New York Times. This is all my new film, Terror Storm. It's coming out in a month. I'm going to premiere it at my big LA conference. I hope a lot of you come to, June 24th and 25th. And they came in there, and they bombed mosques, killed Muslim leaders, clerics. They handed out tens of thousands in every city, millions total, just him and a 12-man team and a few $1 million. These handbills saying, Mossadegh did this, he's very proud of it, as if Mossadegh had written it, up with communism, up with the terrorism, up with the attack on Islam. And they used that then to use the military that already paid off to go to the presidential palace and to arrest Mossadegh, who was in prison for 3 years and then spent the rest of his life on home arrest. But they took his entire cabinet and tried them and cut their heads off too. They got the same fate as Marinus van der Lubbe under Adolf Alois Hitler. Now, let's skip forward to 1961 and Operation Northwoods, the official U.S. government plan, not some war game, an official green-lighted plan they wanted to go operational with. That means they wanted to do it. To use a modern analogy, it's like you're signing the contract to buy the house. Just sitting here looking at houses. And it called for hijacking jets by remote control, crashing them, blaming it on the Soviets, Cuba. It called for bombing D.C. It called for sniper attacks, even how to frame patsies. It called for attacking the Marine Corps base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and then having Cuban American Army troops dressed up like Cubans do it as a pretext to start World War III. That's Library of Congress, National Security Archive, ABC News. That is part of the record as well. And they hope that you don't investigate this. They hope you don't look at this. They hope, and obviously you have, but they hope that the people out there who haven't looked yet haven't. Because once you start learning of this, you can't turn away. It's the truth. It's the foundation on which our entire society's development is being built. They have hijacked human development. They are using false flag terror to do this. Now we skip forward a few years, 2 years, year and a half, to Gulf of Tonkin, 1964. We've already got 150,000 troops there. We've already had 6,000 losses covertly in the last 4 years. I say we, the New World Order, we're not really part of this system. We've got out of that mindset, myself included. And this criminal group led by McNamara and led by LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, what do? Well, we knew this 40 years ago. Some captains and others went public. It was in the San Diego Tribune, Herald Tribune, way back in '64. Some people spoke out and said, we weren't attacked. We were told to go up there. We were trying to draw fire. They wouldn't shoot at us, so we shot at them, and none of this happened. We already knew that, but in the last 2 years, the LBJ tapes have been released, 3,000 hours of them in Austin by the Presidential Library, and to hear these tapes I've put on the radio of LBJ at his ranch to McNamara in D.C. going, well, so we staged this. Oh, this is how we handle it with the press. McNamara's telling him what to do. Then it gets worse. About 8 months ago, I guess, they released the actual NSA documents and the CIA documents that indeed it was a false provocation for war. People say, well, nobody died via that lie. I mean, they didn't actually blow up a building or sink a ship as Northwoods called for. Northwoods also had blowing up a ship like the Maine again in 1898 with William McKinley's Navy. They say, no, we haven't killed anybody. It wasn't a problem. 58,000 Americans died. Over 1 million Vietnamese died up until 1974, 75 with a full pullout. So yes, millions did die, including 58,000 million, 58,000 Americans, and what is about 1.2 million Vietnamese. So this is the reality. This is their main game plan. They know we're tribal, primitive creatures, and if we're like a beehive. If somebody whacks the beehive, we're going to come buzzing out of there angrily to resist this. And that's what they do. They misdirect us. In fact, they have, of course, African-style hunting, but all primitive societies do it. The Queen of England does it. They have beaters who take drums, pots, and pans, and they get off a few miles away and begin beating these drums, beating these pots and pans, and driving the pheasants or the other birds that are being shot towards the area where the nobles are lined up with their shotguns. And then the nobles just sit there with 3 or 4 servants each, handing them double-barrel shotguns as they shoot the game birds as they come flying out of the tree line. Humans learned this a long time ago. That's why woolly mammoths are extinct all across Eurasia and what's Europe today, and of course the Americas, because humans learned to beat their drums, drive them off cliffs. And we are an incredibly aggressive predatory species, so now we've dominated all the animals, so the elites sit upon us as kind of our own little degenerate subspecies feeding on the general population, still engaging in those predatory instincts, and they see us as weak-minded because we're not predatory like they are. And of course Africans do the same thing. They beat the bushes. Some of the southern tribesmen, they have these long 14-foot spears, and they beat the bushes for several miles and drive the lions out, and it's part of a manhood ritual to then go out and kill the lion. It's the same thing. So terrorism is beating the bushes, scaring you, driving you, the lemmings off the cliff, driving you in the direction that they're sending the sound, the propaganda. So from an anthropological view, that's what we're dealing with here. And another case of that with the Gulf of Tonkin. Then we have the sinking of the USS Liberty, and I've researched this. I've interviewed many of the JAG officers involved, like Captain Ward Boston, who later became Admiral Boston. They were told to cover it up. They had the full details of what happened. I've interviewed the now late Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Thomas M. Moore. I have also, of course, interviewed many of the other admirals that were involved there, and I've talked to the admirals, Admiral Geist, who's now late as well, many years ago, but it's on the record. They filed public reports, they've delivered these to Congress, that LBJ, well, I'm sure most of you know about the USS Liberty, but for those watching in TV land, let me boil that down. 1967, Six-Day War, you've got the, 6-7 Arab nations attacking Israel, and Israel's already basically won 5 days into it, okay, with superior weapons. And so all this is happening, and we know that at that time the Soviets were supplying armaments to the Arabs, and so the Cold War planners wanted to knock it up because World War III would be really profitable, especially when they rotate out as generals to being defense contractor CEOs and board members. And they wanted to go to war with the Soviets. The prize wasn't just Egypt and that populous nation in the region. So this is the neocon plan back then. They just weren't called neocons. And so LBJ took specific special control through his office in McNamara, and they parked the USS Liberty right there in the Mediterranean, 14 miles off the northern coast of Israel / Egypt. And they sent in multiple waves of descente missiles, fighter bombers. They sent in Mirage 3s, two wings of those. They attacked it for several hours. They had torpedo boats. You know, one case blowing in my new film I say 35-foot hole. I've got to go recut it. It's actually a 47-foot hole. I'm sorry. They blow it through there. The captain's got a life vest on, strapping his intestines in, delivering morphine to himself, staying at the bridge. And they call the carrier, Admiral Geist, we're under attack, because the first thing the Israelis did was shoot up all the antennas and all the control systems. And they had unmarked planes, you know, precision type activities, unmarked aircraft. So all of this happens, and they call, guys, help us, we're under attack, we're being engaged by torpedo boats and bombers and fighters, and we need your help. And they're locking down bulkheads, and it's burning, and people are dying, and they're strafing lifeboats against the Geneva Convention and all rules of war and common sense and decency, because they had to kill everybody. And McNamara comes on and says, you will not launch a wing, we're not going to do that. And the admiral ignores it, and they go ahead